Good morning, everyone. This is Have a Science Blast with Jan, and today we're playing with color again. Last week we colored Easter eggs and using a lot of different things from around the house, and today we're going to use some of the same materials in a different way. So I want us to just start by observing what I'm doing here. So I just put a drop of food coloring in the glass. And let's just watch what the food coloring does as it sits in the glass of water. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with milk. This is 2% milk, the milk that I usually have at home with my breakfast cereal. And as you can see, the food coloring is sitting on top of the milk rather than mixing through into the water. So we're going to do an experiment to see, or exploration, to look at how milk has some, as a liquid, has some different properties than our water does. So here we go, a couple of drops of blue food coloring. And we can see I'm going to do some drops of red across the middle, and you can see it sort of, and let's get some yellow, and then across the middle of it with some orange, with some green. So notice it's the food coloring is just sort of spreading out, making interesting designs on the top of the milk. It's not going into the, it's not dropping through like it did here in the water. Because see, here we can see the milk. It's very slowly starting to maybe turn the milk blue, something I'm not going to use for my breakfast cereal. So I'm now taking a toothpick and making more designs, and the food coloring is moving through the milk. And mostly the food coloring is just sitting there on top. There's a little bit of color mixing going on, but not a lot. And so this is what we're going to explore. And this is something for you to then do some research on later after you've tried this at home. I now have a cotton swab with a little bit of dish soap on the tip. And you want to watch very carefully to see what happens when I stick the tip of the cotton swab in the water, in the milk. What is the food coloring doing? And why is it running away from the Q-tip? And again, without a lot, it's still not doing a lot of color mixing, but I'm just getting it to spread out. Now I got a little color mixing in there, but the question is, why does the milk behave this way, which is very different than the way food coloring behaves in water? And I'm doing this with 2% milk. You could try it with whole milk. You could try it with skim milk to see if it works differently. And by experimenting with different types of milk or with what you have around the house, you could even try some instant milk if that's what you have, to see how it behaves and why it behaves the way it does. And again, giving you something to think about. You can always Google it to see what you're going to find out in terms of the milk experiment. It takes a shallow dish, a little bit of milk, and the food coloring. Simple things from around the house. So now we're going to play with water again. And this time we're going to see if we can make a rainbow. And we know a rainbow is made up of all the different colors in the spectrum, but I only have 4 bowls here, so we're going to not be able to get all the colors, but I'm going to put down my red, I'm going to put down my yellow. I'm going to put down some green. I think I need a little more red. And I'm going to put down blue. So we know when we mix certain colors, we get a new color, because if we mix red and yellow, we should get orange. If we mix blue and red, we should get purple. Well, let's see what happens here. So I'm going to take some pieces of, we can either use pieces of, my brain just stopped. Well, we can use coffee filters, or we can use paper towels. So I'm going to put the paper towel in. I just put the coffee filter in, and let's just sit and see if we can see what's going to happen here. We've got, if we're going to get some action here, and I'm going to put another coffee filter in the blue and the green, and then we're going to put some paper towel in the red and the paper towels, as you're seeing here, work a whole lot faster. So I may switch that out here to see what we get in terms of the color traveling from one place to another. So now what happens? So it's going to take a minute or two, and we're going to leave this experiment and come back to it, because now we're going to get to play with markers. I bet most of you have been doing lots of coloring while we've been at home, because it's hard to do a lot of other things. So we're going to do some things with markers and water to see what happens. And in this case, we're going to use markers. We're going to use markers that are not permanent markers. We're going to use our washable markers. And what I'm doing is I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to use first a piece of paper towel, and I'm going to put a circle on, or it's going to look like a circle. So I'm going to get a fairly dark line. So you're going to want to use another piece of paper or something, because the markers tend to bleed. So now I've got this mark on my paper towel. Then I'm going to do the same thing using some other colors of marker, but I'm going to use coffee filters this time. And so on this one, I use blue on my paper towel. Now I'm going to use black, and the circle I'm going to draw is around the center of the coffee filter. And something you could experiment with is to see if a thick line is better than a thin line. So I've taken the coffee filter and I've drawn a line, and now I'm going to fold the coffee filter into pieces, because now what we want to do is put the coffee filter, and then we're going to also do the same thing with the paper towel, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to take them and put them in clean glasses of water. But we've got to be very careful, because we don't want the marker line to touch the water. So we're going to watch. I'm going to put the paper towel one in where I use the blue marker. And what do you see? What do we see happening here on the paper towel? The color is traveling up the paper towel. And we're going to just leave it there and watch it for a minute. So this was marker, and marker is in, you know, it's sort of a liquid form. And now we're going to take the coffee filter where I use the black. And so far with the blue marker, we're just seeing mostly blue. Since blue is a primary color, I expect to see mostly blue. But now black, what do we expect to see when we were to do something with black? Because black is the mixture of all colors. And this one, I'm trying to get my hand out of the way and keep it from, as we can start seeing the coffee, the liquids coming up. Is it black on the paper? Here we have lots of different things happening. So I'm going to just put this one to the side and let it continue to do its thing. And I just messed it up because I got it all the way in the water. That's where you have to be very careful with this. Now we're going to take one more color. I'm going to take green. So we haven't done anything with green. I'm going to make my green circle on the coffee filter. And my last cup of water. So again, I'm just using odds and ends I have around the house that allow me to have something happen. I'm going to hold this in, and the water is shooting right up the filter. And let's look over here. So see how the green is getting lighter and it's starting to spread out. So we have, and if you don't drop them in, if you are very careful, and depending on the kind of markers you have, you're going to have different results. So this is what I did last night. I've got one, which was a blue marker, and it's kind of a bluish green, not much on the filter other than right up to the edges. This was a black marker, not the same black marker I just used this morning, but I have blues and purples. And then I had a different marker. And this one I've got green and blue and yellow and pink. So if you've got the coffee filters in the house and you're able to test this out, what you can do then now this is where you can get creative. You've made these beautiful colored coffee filters. So what could you do with them? Think about, could you build a flower? Could you build a butterfly? What could you do with the different colors of markers that you have? Well, I'm going to do one more just to see if we can get some results similar to what I got last night when I was doing this. So I'm using a different black marker. And since I didn't get the water wet with the marker, because look at it's coming up. This is the green marker, and if you notice, we're starting to get some blue as well as the green, but now I have green water, so I don't want that. And the same with the blue marker. So I'm going to take my marker, take my coffee filter, and very carefully fold it into pieces. And for this one, I'm just going to hold it in the water so that the tip is touching. And right now, because of the amount of water I have in here, you can't really see anything. So let's see if we can see some more. Oh, yes. And again, it's coming up the filter. But I was a little clumsy this morning with things. But this was a black marker. But notice how we're getting blues and other colors going through this. So I'm just going to let this one continue to do its, they're all moving along here because they're wet enough that you can get the color diffusing. So in this case, this was a green marker, but we also have the blue coming out as it's going up the edges. So again, this is something called chromatography. Big word that you could look up. And it tells you it's all about separating color and separating to get more information about an object in a liquid. So now we're going to come back and it's going to take another quick look at, so far, the blue has traveled. Red's not doing a whole lot here. No red and yellow mixing. The blue's traveled into the green's traveling into the yellow. So we're getting the water traveling, the colors traveling up the paper towels. And again, if you have more bowls, you could try more colors. You could try smaller amounts of food color. You could try more food coloring. So it's an experiment that allows you to explore how color can travel, how color can mix in lots of different ways. And then if maybe for Easter, your family got some flowers, maybe there's some white flowers or there's some, a flower or two, cut the stem down a little bit so it's got a fresh cut on the stem of the flower and try seeing if you can change the color of the flower. So you're going to put some food coloring in a glass, and this time you'd want to use a larger amount of food coloring and see what happens. Can you change the flower from one color to another? So that's it today. We've got lots of different experiments that you can try with color. It's best to do these in the kitchen, where you can do them with the sink right there and the soap and everything to clean up. But we are getting, this is one of my black markers. Notice how just even after another couple minutes, we're able to see even more. We're seeing the colors separating. So again, this is an opportunity for you to explore, try something that you might not have tried before, and be an explorer and have a blast doing science. And now look at what's happened to the milk after it's sat for a while with the soap in it. So that's, again, it looks like marbling. And go back to looking at the water. And the food coloring is mostly just sitting on the top of the milk. So once again, have a blast, make some observations, and don't be afraid to experiment as long as you're doing it safely with help of your parents. And so have a good day, and we will see you all next week.